Hey everyone, it is Friday night of, I believe, the ninth week of our class. I wanted to do a very short video on our group project or our group initiative. Sorry, there's a little bit of a echo in the in my office. I've just painted and changed and cleaned out my home office, so we're going to have to contend with that, and I apologize in advance. Okay. What I wanted to say about the group project is this. I mean, I realize the beginning week or the beginning 10 days of any group project is difficult. This one is especially difficult. The reason for that is we're used to writing academic papers. We're used to a lot of professorial control. We're used to really specific guidelines about how things should be done. I mean, those are all norms in academic work. The issue here is that in most cases, I would say 90% of the cases, group work in professional writing is done on the fly. It's done in a hurry. It's done with, of course, some administrative or supervisor's control. The norm is to be told to produce a 5-page memo on something. And very rarely are you going to be reading like a single page of itemized guidelines. It really doesn't happen very much. And the other thing that happens in professional writing is that things change. And this is the point that I was making earlier in the semester. I was talking about how supervisors change their minds. The supervisors change their minds. The market changes entirely. People within the group drop in and out for, as I was saying a month ago, sometimes bad reasons, sometimes really good reasons. All those things cannot be helped. Okay. In conclusion, the thing that we have to talk about now is that group work is always a work in progress in at least two senses. The first sense is that the original project gets modified as you do it. And once again, there's many reasons, there's hundreds of reasons for this. In the workforce, in real world experience, in our class, it's the same thing. A group will, hit like the second or third week and they'll realize that their original understanding of the innovation that they were studying and the report that they were building wasn't quite right. So they have to change, they've got to renegotiate with each other. In some cases, they've got to renegotiate with the supervisor / professor. So that's one thing. The other thing that happens is, life happens. That is to say, you'll be working and someone in your group will get sick. Someone in your group will drop the class. Someone in your group will, have a family issue. I mean, many different things can happen. Now, what I'm arguing for is all those things are good things in terms of our replicating in our class something like real world conditions. Okay, so what we need to do as we're doing this is basically every week do our best and not expect that the final project will be like word perfect. As I was explaining more generally about a month ago, what goes on in, I almost want to say all professional reports and memos is that the finished project is just the first attempt. The supervisor or the supervising team will read it and they'll say, well, that's pretty good, but we want it to reflect other things. And so you have to do it again. Okay, once you get in the habit of writing like this, really something positive happens, and that is you simply reconcile yourself to trying to write a really competent, brilliant report, but not to solve the world's problems. And it's a sort of lesson in modesty and humility, and I think our class experience replicates that very well. So what I'm saying here is, with your groups, do your best. And wait for my responses to your papers, and keeping in mind that I'm really into do-overs and resubmissions. If you're not happy with your first paper, your first grade, kind of depending on how you see it, then we'll just redo it. And it's not, we've got until the middle of December to do this. That is, we have all kinds of time. You always have me for feedback. Okay, so there's no real reason to stress about this project. Now, something else I wanted to bring up really quickly before I sign off. I always have to check the time, because I really try to keep these under 10 minutes. And let's say you lose 2 or 3 members of your group. Well, don't panic, everyone, because what I will do is I'll reduce the size and the complexity of the project. I'll give you something of a simplified form, and quite frankly, for the last 2 standing, I'll make sure you get, not just a fair grade, but a more than fair grade, because you will have been put in a situation where you have to do more than the anticipated amount of work. You need to trust me here. I would never let a student be harmed in any way, at any level, for a hiccup in a project. So you don't have to worry about that. In a certain sense, and this sounds kind of cynical, and it's not cynical, it's meant in a honest way. If your group has rough patches, or if you lose members of your group, in a way you benefit, because number one, you end up working more with me, and for better or worse, that probably works out to your advantage. That's number one. Number two, I'll simplify the report for you, so we don't have 1 or 2 people doing the work of 4 or 5. I mean, that will never happen in a class of mine. So it works out in the end. It works out well in the end. And as I'm saying, if there's some turbulence along the way, as far as I'm concerned, that's the best part of these projects, that they're not robotic, and they're not overly refined. They're a little bit messy, they're a little bit wild, they're a little bit irritating by times, but that's what work is like. I mean, work never goes smoothly, so to speak. And the other thing, another one of my mantras here is this: if an organization, whatever it is, wants a flawless, finished, perfect report, I mean, quite frankly, they usually either outsource it, or they'll give it to a team which is doing this as the major part of its professional activity. The kind of report we're working on is the sort where a normal employee is doing a group project which is just a relatively small part of their daily work. And this is one of the things that I want you to get a feel for, or have a feel for, that that usually when you're working with a group to produce the standard 3 to 10 page report, I mean, you're basically doing it on top of 10 or 15 other tasks. So it's always messy, and it's always somewhat stressful. And I think our class 210 here works really well in that respect, because what we're trying to do is replicate professional writing, not like write traditional college research papers, in which, I guess I should finish by saying, in terms of all that traditional stuff, perfect commas, perfect punctuation, perfect grammar, perfect APA, forget it. I mean, it's not, I couldn't care less about that. And you'll see the way I mark your papers. Let's say you don't use APA. I mean, frankly, I don't even mention this. And if it's really a little bit weird, I mean, I'll say you might look at, or give you an example of what it should look like, but I would never grade down. I mean, I'm looking for just 2 or 3 things in each of these reports. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Thank you very much. You're doing a great job. Everyone in the class is really, doing fine work. The grades are strong, and I'm enjoying reading your papers. Thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.